Hello, good morning, and welcome to North Harrow Community Library YouTube channel. So my name's Fiona, I'm one of the volunteers here, and today I'm joined by author Laurelle Rond. Hello, Laurelle.
Hello, Fiona, and hello, everybody.
Welcome along. So, Laurelle, can you introduce yourself first of all? Perhaps tell us a little bit about your name and who you are, what you do, and a little background to behind the story that you've written to us.
Hey, yes, well,
yeah.
I've been a musician and a writer all my life, really. Music, I've been singing in public since the age of 7. And as soon as I could write, I started writing poetry. And in fact, at school, when there was a careers fair, I refused to go because I said, well, I'm going to be a writer, so I don't need you to tell me anything else. So, yeah, my motivation has always been very strong and focused. My name is an interesting one because when I got divorced for the first time, I might add, I was truly fed up with men. And this does have relevance to the book Pearly Eye. And I decided to change my name. First of all, as a pen name for my for writing, and then generally for my name. So I was Helen, and I was very, very interested in Lord of the Rings at the time. So I took my favorite character, Elrond, and changed my name to Laurelle Rond. So that will give you an idea of the kind of person that I am, the prince or princess of the elves. And I indeed now have a little dog called Pixie, and I live in a house called Rivendell. So
very good. There we go. That's really interesting. And I had no idea that all that background was there just behind a name that's on your book. And indeed, here is the book, Pearly Eye by Laurelle Rond. So this is primarily what we're talking about today, but you have such a fascinating background. I think we'll probably be talking about some other things as well. So the Pearly Eye, I read this book. It was intriguing, engrossing, very complex, a lot of complex characters, lots of themes interwoven in and out, and a very exciting plot, which keeps page turning. And I wonder if you could give us a little bit of a précis, because I would find it quite difficult. It's there are so many strands to it. Can you give us a little précis of the plot, the story, and the background behind it?
Well, the protagonist is called Serena, and she appears to the world to be disabled because she has one green eye and one pearly eye. And the whole story is really how she comes to understand that her pearly eye is in fact her power. So her green eye sees normally outside into the world, and she learns how her pearly eye sees into her inner world. And this inner world comes to life really after a tragedy, which often happens with all of us. Something horrible happens and we get projected onto a life path which we would never have imagined and probably wouldn't have chosen, but nevertheless, which helps us to find out who we really are. And so she loses her mother and her sister in rather horrible circumstances and runs away to Oxfordshire. And she finds herself having to busk on the streets of Oxford because her bag is stolen. And she's rescued by a woman who lets her go and stay in a caravan by the river about 10 miles away from Oxford in a village called Great Stenning on the borders of Little Stenning. This is a fictional set of villages. Nevertheless, I did live in Oxfordshire for 30 years. And one of the reasons behind my starting this story was because I went to a small museum and discovered one of 2 skeletons. These Anglo-Saxon skeletons had been found when excavations were happening for a landfill site. and they were separated and put into different museums. And I was so horrified. I thought, I have to write a story to bring these two skeletons together. The other impulse for the story was my own trauma and experience of violence, and an absolute desperation to understand why has this happened to me. And it happened several times. There was a pattern that I couldn't explain. So in my life, I used music, really, and my desire for healing to train as a sound therapist and a shamanic healer. And in the shamanic healing, I learned that shamanism is the oldest religion in the world. And it believes that every time we experience a trauma, we leave a little bit of our soul behind with the person who caused the trauma or the experience. Now, you put that along with reincarnation and past lives and ancestral healing, and you start to get a really fascinating mix. And I began to think, these patterns in my life can be explained by the traumas I have experienced in past lives. And I did a lot of work. I became a past life regression therapist, and I had some of my own past lives. Well, they were revealed to me, and I revealed them to myself. And so I started to write a novel, not a trilogy, a novel, having already been a published poet. So the two skeletons I wanted to bring together, understanding my patterns and understanding why anybody should have to experience trauma, possibly again, and again. And then it was my imagination. Now, I'm a strange kind of a writer. Many writers who are very, very sensible indeed have a plan. And they sort their plan out and then they write to their plan. Me, not a bit of it. I haven't got a clue what I'm going to write about. I sit there, often in the middle of the night, I press a button in my mind, I watch the film and I write about it. And what I've understood from this is that I deep dive into my unconscious mind. Now, another fascination of mine is psychology. And I've understood that 95% of our minds is unconscious, and a mere 5%, if we are lucky, is conscious. We think we're running our lives from that 5%, but it's like the tip of an iceberg. You see this tiny little iceberg out of the sea, and underneath is a massive mountain. And in our unconscious minds, because of what we experience, especially in our formative young years, we create beliefs and patterns to keep ourselves safe. Everything is there to keep us safe. Now, if you go back to babyhood, we cry when we're babies. We cry if we're hungry, we're thirsty, we're in pain, we're wet, we're dirty, we want attention, etc. And it's a very effective way of getting a response from our mother. However, if you do this when you're 20 years old, I'm hungry, I'm going to cry, it's not going to get us very far. It's a brilliant example of how patterns become outdated. And what once kept us safe no longer keeps us safe at all, but we still cling on to these patterns. So going right back again to past lives, I press this button in my head and I go back, not necessarily to my past lives, maybe to my past lives, who knows, but I start to see a film. So Serena runs away to Oxfordshire, gets rescued by this woman, and then she digs up an ancient artifact. In this village is also an archaeological dig, which is digging up a settlement from the Bronze Age, 4,000 years ago. And the minute she digs up this ancient artifact, which, unbeknown to the archaeologists, is connected to this settlement, she starts to dream about it. And she sees what happens 4,000 years ago. And there starts to play out the traumas in her life that she's facing in the present day, all from this past life. And all the new friends she makes in Oxfordshire, and she makes some brilliant friends, appear also in this life.
They do. Gosh. So
Okay.
that's a very expansive and useful background to the way that the story has come to you, and has answered a lot of the questions I already have. So for me, the complexity of it, so you're weaving in present day and past times, and the people reflect each other, and you can see the connections and similar names and personalities and what's happening. And then in the present day, Serena has her visions and dreams. She passes out effectively and has dreams, and the dreams are so vivid. And to me, the story was very much inside people's minds. And interesting what you say about the unconscious mind. I mean, the 95%, that's a huge amount. I mean, the calm surface that we're all working underneath, we're all running around like this. 95% of it's all manipulating the 5% on top.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and you can see that in the threads of the story. So the inside of the characters, you give them very real inside lives, and you can feel what they're thinking, and I can see how the external events are affecting their inside patterns and how they're reacting, both back in the Bronze Age and in the future. In the present. So it makes a real depth to the characters in the novel, which is fascinating. And then we have the physicality in the material world. So you've already mentioned that it's from your imagination, but when you're reading it, it feels as though you're in a travelogue, sort of walk down the path, and here's the boat, and it's all colourful, and the caravan up here. It's very, very real. So that really it must be based on landscapes you have seen in the past. So you lived in Oxfordshire, so it is very of that region.
It is, but I don't think it is based on anywhere. I think because we're 95% unconscious, that's where it's based. And I liken it to a sculptor taking a piece of wood now and wanting to carve. Now you would think the sculptor has an idea of what they want to carve, and they go about carving it to get that shape. I have no idea what I want to carve. So I get my chisel, and I mean, this is why it took me 25 years to write this novel, because I chiseled away and got a particular shape. And then I realized, no, that's not the shape. And so I must have written 10, 12 novels in that time. Okay. But I needed to get to this base shape. This is what the wood is trying to tell us. This is the message of the wood. It's not about me putting a message on it.
Okay.
And so I understand why you say that the landscape is based on something I've seen. It may be true, but it's not a rational description. So as I say, it's an imaginary place. Although, interestingly enough, some of the people who have read it from Oxfordshire, they look for that landscape in Oxfordshire, which is funny.
I know, well, I can understand why, because you do feel that you'll turn around a corner and there will be, that looks like the manor house. And oh, yes. So it's all part of the writing that you've managed to create such a vivid you have created a way to make people feel that it is real. And that's the same about the inside people are feeling as well. You've created a novel in which you believe these characters and you feel their pain. And there is a lot of, this sounds very grim, but there's a lot of pain in the book. There's also a lot of optimism and hope and bonding together of personalities and forgiveness as well. All human life is there, and it's the first of a trilogy. So we should
Well,
go through
isn't
that.
it just? And having written 100,000 words, Pearly Eye is about 100,000 words. Having written 100,000 words of Amber Heart, the second one, I then do my normal thing and think, there's a great mass of this. I haven't quite got deep enough yet. So I've gone right back to the beginning. However, I cannot afford to spend 25 years writing it. And then another 20, that would be 75 years. I don't have that left.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to sort myself out on this one. But yeah, Amber Heart continues Selena's present day story, but goes back to the early medieval times, in the same place, the same archaeological dig, and it's a fascinating period of time, because I didn't realize this, but when I was researching, in the kind of mid 500s, there were several Icelandic volcano eruptions which caused the skies to go dark for 10 years. As a result of that, the sun couldn't get through, plants died, animals died, a lot of people died. And then at the end of that 10 years, when the skies cleared, the plague hit. I mean, we've just been through a pandemic. You know, we can have a tiny, tiny little glimpse of what that must have been like. It's a fascinating period of time. So I've chosen that period of time to write about.
Right. Okay. So the Bronze Age, which is where Selena's goes backwards and forwards in time, again, is a fascinating time, but in a very different sort of a way. So the matriarchal society, which you've created there with the is really interesting. And was there a lot of research into the historical authenticity of what you're doing in the Bronze Age, or did it sort of come to you as
there was to start with, but me and academic papers are not great friends. I kind of forget it. I guess I researched enough to retain some information, which I then completely forgot, and my imagination would, I mean, it goes into your unconscious mind, doesn't it? So it would have shaped where it needed to shape, but it's certainly not from my rational academic mind at all, which is probably about that big.
Okay. And have you visited an archaeological dig?
Not really. No.
Okay.
No. I mean, we really are talking about imagination here.
Well, that's quite extraordinary, because the Portakabin and the mud and the frozen again,
well, because
it's very easy to
that's
feel.
right. That's what I see in my head. I mean, whatever this thing called imagination is, it's incredibly clear. It's like sitting in front of a screen and watching a film.
Oh, really?
The details are there, the clarity is there. My favorite writing days are when something happens that I don't expect, which is most of the time. And I go, my goodness, I didn't know that was going to happen. It's so exciting. And I think that enables it to be a page turner, because the reader can't possibly know what's going to happen because I haven't set it up.
Because the writer
just happens.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So the story does write itself.
It writes itself. The characters write themselves. Yeah. The characters are my best friends. If I do not have a chat with my characters every day, I am absolutely bereft. I am lost. They're wonderful.
They're all just off screen there, all chatting to you.
Oh, absolutely they are. Yeah.
Really interesting. One of the other themes in the book is the music. So yes. Serena is a harp player.
Yes.
And as I believe you're a harp player.
Yes.
And we'll be able to do some links to your harp music when we put the recording out, so that people can hear for themselves the very beautiful harp music. And it resonates in both eras. And is this something you feel is a major part of your life, the music that you listen to?
Well, music is a major part of my life and always has been. Do I listen to a lot of music? No. Do I play a lot of music? Yes. Um, it again, it comes out of me. I write music. I only play my own music on the harp. I'm originally a pianist, a classical music pianist, so I read music on that. I don't read music at all on the harp. I play it back to front. So yeah, exactly.
Literally the harp back to front, or you
Well,
play?
I play it on the back to front. I play it the way they used to play it in medieval times,
Ah,
over my left shoulder. These days, people play it over their right shoulder.
okay.
Um, but Selena, we meet Selena. She's trying to become a singer-songwriter. She's an ex-librarian, actually, who has been made redundant, and her dream is to be a singer-songwriter. And she's done a few little gigs, and she's called the Pirate because she wears an eye patch over the pearly eye. But the reality is, she doesn't have the temperament yet to be able to withstand the tough life of a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So, through the three novels, we will find out. She certainly starts to write music again, but we will find out whether or not she toughens up to perform in public. I don't know the answer to that yet.
Interesting.
We will
Yes.
find out.
Yes, because her busking wasn't a happy experience on the whole.
Well, no, I mean, she got horribly threatened. I have busked quite a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was trained as a classical singer. I've sung opera and oratorio and all sorts of stuff. And after university, I went off to France and I busked because I wanted to get my natural voice back. I didn't like the way it was becoming all warbly and classical. I had quite a naturally classical voice anyway, but it was becoming too woo, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And I understand why it has to be for opera because you have to have such strong. I mean, you're a bodybuilder with huge muscles when you're an opera singer, and you don't
Large
have
lungs.
microphones,
Yeah.
and you have to have massive lungs and all of that stuff. So I want to do things my own way. So I went on the streets of France and I busked, and I also busked from America, New York to San Francisco in America, and bought a motorbike to come back on. So yeah, I know about busking, and busking can be both a brilliant experience, breathtakingly brilliant, and breathtakingly awful. And I have had both. And Selena has one of the horrible experiences where she's warned off someone's patch by a very aggressive, nasty piece of work, which is when she gets rescued. Yeah.
Yes, and then she is saved and her life
She's saved. Yeah.
a much more positive turn with some twists and turns along the way.
Indeed.
So one of the other interesting things about the book is that where that you've used the runes as chapter heading designs, and I'll just see if I can show you one here, for example. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about runes, what they mean, where you discovered them, and how you've woven them into the story.
Well, for a significant birthday, I decided to do something that I had dreamt about as a child. You remember we have these recurring dreams as children, and I had dreamt about the land of the midnight sun so many times. And so I went with a friend to the Lofoten Islands in the north of Norway. It's a kind of spur of islands out pretty much near the top, well into the Arctic Circle. And I learnt about runes. Runes are an ancient language of 25 letters. The Germanic, Nordic language. Mm-hmm. And I use these runes as a chapter heading through the 3 books. So you don't get through them until you've got to the end of the 3 books. Okay. And I use them, each one means something. And I use them also as a kind of divination, which they're used for now. People read runes. It's like reading cards or reading some kind of prophetic thingy, what do I need to think about today? You need to think about X, Y, and Z. And that's really what runes are. And of course, I have since discovered another writing system, which I use in the second book, which is Ogham, spelled Ogham, which is an Irish writing system, which is also coming back into trend. People are now reading Ogham, and has been carved all over the British Isles. But runes also did come down into the British Isles. So there are runic markings, especially in Scotland, but some in Wales as well.
Yes, I remember seeing them on Scottish graveyards and things and ancient monuments. And I believe that they're very angular because they get carved into stone. So
they are very angular. Ogham uses only lines because it's too difficult to do that. So some runes are recognizable, like Rado, which is like an R, but an angular R, which means travel. But others are completely unrecognizable.
Interesting.
And the ancient artifact that Serena digs up has a rune, all of the runes on stones around this pendant. The bottom one is Gabo, which looks like an X, which means a gift.
So, yes, I think you mentioned this in the book, and we've talked a lot. I wonder if you could perhaps read a couple of paragraphs from the story, just explain.
Well, I can read the bit where she's trying to work out what this necklace is all about.
So she's found the necklace in the mud, having been guided there.
Yes.
Through a series of events. Yes. And now she's back in the caravan, I believe.
Well, it's just worth mentioning the being guided there, because one of the dangerous parts of all of this reincarnation stuff is that the character who Serena was manifests into the present time and causes 2 car accidents.
She does.
And actually, all of the friends have to get together to work out how they can demanifest her because she's dangerous.
Yeah.
So it is this manifested ghost, if you like, from the Bronze Age who leads her to dig up this ancient artifact. So I'll read you a couple of paragraphs.
Thank you.
When I wake up, I find that I am clutching the chain to my chest as though it's some kind of talisman. The dream about the cave and something called the amulet is still sharp in my mind, and there's no sign of it going away like a normal dream. As I put the chain back onto the table, I feel a sense of loss, and a shiver runs through my body. Puzzled, I pick it up again and immediately feel warmer. Once again, I put it down. The air feels icy again, and there's a strange numb feeling in my pearly eye. When I pick it up again, the air grows warmer and my eye comes back to life. As though this is some kind of crazy experiment, I repeat the action several more times and get the same result. With the chain in my fingers, I feel warmer. Without it, I feel colder. And that is not all. With the warmth, I feel stronger, while with the cold, I feel weaker. Without the chain, my eye feels numb. With it, it feels alive. What is this thing that I have dug up? Bemused, I lay the chain on the table, but put my fingers on it to keep up the connection. The rune on the bottom pendant shines more brightly than the others, perhaps because of the amber and selenite crystals. According to the runes in Lana's boat, the X carved into it means Gabo, a gift. But what does that mean? And what kind of gift? The chain is long enough to be a necklace. So wondering what might happen if I lay it directly on my skin, I brush off as much of the rust as I can and slip the chain over my head. The moment that the bottom stone is sitting snugly over my heart, a song starts playing in my head. It's the song from the dream, sung by Sela, the girl with red hair. Quickly I reach for a notebook and notate the melody. Perhaps one day I'll be able to add words and turn it into my own song.
Very good. So for those who have not yet read, they should be suitably intrigued. But how did the necklace get found? Where does it lead? Does she write the song? And I'll mention again that the harp music that you yourself have composed, we'll put a link into the video so that the people watching it now can listen as well as read.
And there's one song that's particularly pertinent to this, called What to Do, which is the song I will be able to connect you with. And it's basically a song of despair of someone who's lost their way. They no longer know what to do, where to go, what to believe. And they are left only with themselves and the possibility of hope that one day a path will be found.
And it's a very powerful song. I've listened to it.
What to do? What to say, where to go when you've lost your way, and the blackbird's in the garden, but he's turning into stone, and the water's freezing over till you're utterly alone. What to do? Pray, how to change this night into day, when winter lasts forever and the sky is a weeping rain, and you hide behind your tears. Will you ever laugh again? To make some color from this numbing gray, when your heart is frosted over, yet inside it's hot and raw. Oh, how can you bear it when you're hurting to the core? What to do when not to delay, but to go on, come what may, for the sun must be there somewhere. He must surely want to play. Can you give up all your darkness and feel his fiery ray? What to do? What to say? Somehow, somewhere, you've got to find a way. Then you'll know what to do. You'll see clearly one day, and then you will sing, this is my way, this is my way.
So thank you. The writing process that you go through, which the story presents itself to you, and you've taken, as you've mentioned earlier, 25 years to write this story. and you're surrounded by the characters every day. Are they based on real life people that you know, or do you recognize some of the individuals as people that you have come across in previous lives or present day life?
I believe they are all based on archetypes within myself. Archetypes are another fascinating subject. We know of archetypes from fairy tales. For example, we understand the prince, the princess, the bully, the coward. I think, after long pondering, that each of the characters is an aspect of myself. That doesn't mean to say it's not relatable to anybody else, because we all have these archetypes within us. But archetypes are one of the best ways of understanding the unconscious mind. Carl Jung said that they are the language of the unconscious. So no, they're not based on any particular people, but I do believe they are based on human archetypes.
So do we all have within us the ability to write a story based on our own archetypes?
Well, we probably do if we have the inclination. But bearing in mind how long this has taken me to do, and heaven help me, I've got 3 of them to write. You've got to have a massive amount of determination and motivation to want to. And we all want to do different things. You know, I mean, bodybuilding, for example, do I have any intention or desire to lift weights? None whatsoever. Does it mean that I could lift weights if I wanted to? Possibly, but it ain't gonna happen. So that's what writing books is about, the motivation.
Absolutely. And to carry on for such a long time, the motivation has been very strong within you.
And I write in the night, so you know, it's been at the peril of not sleeping, but the motivation is so great that and that's what you need as a writer. Ultimately, you need absolute obsession,
right,
to do it.
Determination. Yeah. So, well, as a reader of your novel, thank you for your obsession, your determination, the 25 years you have spent going through, listening to the story as it appears and putting it down on paper and finally tuning it into a fascinating and complex novel. And I will say again, for our readers from the library, this is The Pearly Eye. We will have a copy in the library for you to be able to borrow. And when the Amber
the Amber Heart.
The Amber Heart, when the Amber Heart comes along,
yes,
we'll be eagerly waiting for its news.
And then Selenite Soul will be the 3rd and final book.
So thank you. It's been a fascinating conversation. I could spend all day talking to you and listening to your various thoughts about how we as individuals are, how the world all gets connected and put together, and really interesting. And just to remind people that this is the North Harrow Community Library video YouTube channel. And we are open as a community library 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays. We serve as a community hub, so please do come along and visit us, borrow books, just talk with people. We have all sorts of activities. We have knitting clubs, board clubs, Scrabble afternoons. You're always welcome to come to the community hub. So thank you, Laurelle. Good luck with the next story, and look forward to reading it.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me.